Hello readers and writers, I'm MJ and today we're doing my November TBR. So November is nonfiction November. It is a theme more than a readathon that has been going on since I think 2005 and is hosted by a book olive. And this will be the first year that I am participating in it. I love reading nonfiction. I try to read about a nonfiction book a month, although I'm slightly behind that this year. So I'm really excited to focus on nonfiction for the month of November. The challenge is really open-ended. In order to participate, all you have to do is read one nonfiction book a month, although there are 4 categories that they do provide that you can choose to participate in or not. The categories are just one word and you can associate them with your books however you feel. And so I did do that just for the fun of it, but I actually have 6 nonfiction books on my TBR because I couldn't narrow it down to 5. So we'll see how that goes this month, that I am increasing my TBR books on a month where I'm reading nonfiction. So the first word prompt is fraud. For that, I have picked a nonfiction book, Imposter Syndrome No More by Jill Stoddard, and this is a book that I received from the publisher and is about imposter syndrome. So imposter syndrome has been a buzzword of late. Stoddard is masterful at using her extensive training as a psychologist to address the why of imposter feelings by providing a blame-free practical guide to claim our power and confidence. This is a beautiful book, and that is a quote by Eve Rodsky. I am very excited about reading this book. I'm really hoping this book, Imposter Syndrome, or Imposter No More, will provide more context. I obviously like that it has the background from a psychologist, since that's kind of how my brain has been trained to think. And yeah, so I really want to pick this up, and I'm really grateful for the publisher for sending it to me. I'm fairly certain I did request this one because obviously the topic. Alright, so the next buzzword is web. And for web, I want to read The Brain by David Eggman. I love the brain. I love studying about the brain, learning about it. I did take neuropsychology, as many classes as I could, cognitive psychology. It's definitely an interest of mine. And I would say I have a fairly above average knowledge of how the brain works based upon, graduate level studies, even though I'm not a neuropsychologist, even close to a neuropsychologist. I did work in an EKG lab doing research. That was really awesome. But I don't know, reading about the brain is definitely a pleasure read for myself. And this is just like a fun, graphically represented nonfiction book. I really like David Eagleman's writing. He writes a lot of nonfiction books, and I've had this one on my shelf for a while and just haven't picked it up, and I'm really excited to finally do so. So the next word prompt is capital, and in the announcement videos, one of the suggestions for this was like foreign politics or international relations, because countries have capitals. And so for this, I'm going to be reading a library book, The Ethnic Cleansing of Palestine by Elaine Pape, who is an Australian historian. And I'm reading this for a more personal understanding of the history of Palestine and that region. And the last word prompt is display. And one of the suggestions, is artwork and such, because artwork goes on display. And in between books, I always try to read a writing book. I feel like I feel like a person should never stop learning, and there's very different ways to learn, but as an avid reader, one of the ways I want to learn to be a better writer is by reading books, but also writing books and seeing what other people do. And so I am picking up Craft of the Real World. I've heard really good things about this, and I'm really hopeful. It's a great book. Be excited and hopeful to pick this up. That is the end for the actual prompts. It's 4 nonfiction books, and honestly, if I get through 4 nonfiction books, I would be really happy. But I couldn't. There's 2 other books that, as much as I tried to say, hey, you know, I'm not going to pick them up, like, I'll just not put them on my TBR, I couldn't. So I am expanding by 2 more books, and the first one is You'll Never Believe What Happened to Lacey. This is a book I've owned for far too long and haven't read, by Amber Ruffin and Lacey Lamar. And Amber Ruffin is works on the late night talk shows, and has her own, or had, hopefully still has, her own talk show that was running once a week, that was more focused towards a Black audience, but I love it. It's awesome, and you should absolutely watch it, even though I hope they renewed it. I have no idea. But Lacey is Amber's sister, and they co-wrote this together. Amber is extremely talented, so I'm assuming that this book will be hilariously funny, but also, like, eye-opening to somebody who goes through the world being very white. And then I do have other nonfiction books that I have on my shelf that I want to read, and specifically I may pick up additional audiobooks I have. There's some more anti-racism books that I really want to get to that I haven't. I'm in the middle of a physics book, and so there's plenty of nonfiction that I want to read, potentially could pick up this month, but the one I'm officially adding to my TBR is Braiding Sweetgrass, and that is because November is where other people traditionally celebrate Thanksgiving. I do not, so I want to read more Indigenous authors during that weekend. This is one that I plan to pick up. I have a few nonfiction books that, not nonfiction, I have a few fiction books that I may pick up on that weekend as well. At any time, obviously, to read about Indigenous cultures and other cultures in general, but we were raised with such horrible racist historical perspectives about Indigenous individuals in regards to, you know, Columbus Day and Thanksgiving, and thankfully as a society we're moving less towards, you know, Columbus Day is now Indigenous Peoples Day, which is great, because in my undergrad I read Christopher Columbus's original journal entries, and that is why I no longer that's when I stopped participating in Thanksgiving, participating in Columbus Day, teaching my children. They were still pretty young at the time. The truth, or closer to the truth, about those holidays, because they still were getting this very whitewashed Columbus sailed the ocean blue perspective in elementary school, and that was not acceptable. We stopped celebrating Thanksgiving because it just, and we would talk about actual historic events, but I still have a lot of room to grow. There is my TBR. Are you participating in Nonfiction November? Let me know. Do you have books that you highly suggest I should read that are nonfiction? Please let me know down in the comments. I always want to improve my TBR. And as always, keep reading, keep writing, and until next time.